Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We're going to be talking a little bit about technology, about living and learning in the age of AI and how we use that and incorporate that within the elementary structure of our program. Again, I'm David Haas, the elementary principal. If you don't know who I am, again, we're happy you've joined us today. Joining us today, we have Ben Somerton. He's our elementary tech and innovation coordinator here at the elementary school. We also have Chris Ippolito. He's our emerging tech coordinator. Okay, great. Maybe you can hear me better with this. We're going to talk about, again, the role of technology in promoting student learning in the elementary school, and we're also going to be talking about some of the safeguards and limitations around technology as well, and hopefully that will be helpful to you as parents as you use that today. A few announcements before we begin that presentation. Just a reminder again that our elementary conferences are on October 16th and 17th. Those are our Strengths and Goals conferences. Sign-ups started last Thursday, and that was for our parents that have 3 or more children. It just gives them time to at least have more opportunity to get the slots that they need for their children. And then today, families with 2 or more children can start signing up. And then Wednesday, families with 1 child can sign up for the conferences. And that's sort of just a staggered way of ensuring that our parents with more students can get those slots that are timely and they don't have to be here all day. Also want to let you know that we've opened a new snack ordering option on our website. So if you're interested in having snacks for your kids after school for EAA activities, you can order those online and they're delivered right to the classrooms in the afternoons. And Mr. Ho has gluten-free, vegetarian, halal, and non-halal snacks available for students. So make sure you take a look at that. Students who ride the buses can also order snacks, but they need to eat their snack either before they get on the bus or when they get home, because we do tell our students that they shouldn't be eating on the bus. And so sometimes we have kids with allergies and things like that, and we want to be very safe and make sure that students aren't eating on the bus and sharing snacks in any way so that somebody doesn't experience something they shouldn't. Also wanted to let you know that we have Ripple Root. It's an artist consultancy working here starting this week with our students, and they're going to be doing some painting demonstrations with our students from kindergarten through 5th grade. And they're going to be creating some permanent installations here that we're going to put through within our school. So that's a great opportunity for our students here to work with resident artists here in Singapore to help show them painting techniques and then how we can use those throughout our lives as well. So your students are going to have a great opportunity with that, okay? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben. And first, before I start, first slide, we always start with our community norms. And just want to, we always start with these so that we know how we act together. So I'll just read it quickly. It says, as an SAS community member, we agree to hold ourselves to a high standard of personal conduct in terms of our interactions and communications with students, faculty, and parents. This means we adhere to the SAS Statement of Community by assuming positive intent, sharing accurate information, centering the student experience, going to the source when we have questions about things, refraining from discrimination, and then contributing productively and positively to the work we're all doing together. And again, just want to say, this is a partnership. We do our work with you. We're all here to support the work with our kids and make sure they have an amazing learning experience while they're here. And we know that you're partners in that and helping that happen at home when they come home as well. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ben and Chris. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Thanks for joining us today. This is a wonderful opportunity to come together and talk about things that I know matter to you. They certainly matter to Chris and I and the entire team. The goals of today, though, basically what we want to do is we want to dive a little bit into how we use technology, also how we don't use technology in the elementary school. We know that you've got questions, and we know that you're here to really engage with each other and with us, so we want to honour that. We want to surface those concerns, therefore. We want to explain to you a little bit about what the educational value of technology is in the elementary school, the why, essentially. And we want everyone to walk away today feeling like they've got another foot on the ladder as far as really being part of this journey and us doing it together. So welcome. Our vision, everything comes back to this at SAS. That didn't actually work very well, did it? Just doesn't like that slide. There it is. World leader in education, cultivating exceptional thinkers prepared for the future. And when we say the future, we're really talking about their future. And certainly technology's got a part to play in this. And we have to be really thoughtful and careful about the decisions we make. If you're not already familiar with this, this is something that we come back to. This is drilling down on our vision and mission and explaining what SAS is, why we are. A couple of things about this, but in terms of our learning aspirations are actually what frame, on the topic of artificial intelligence, for example, this was actually the beginning. This is where we started. When we started looking at AI, we didn't start with ChatGPT and look what it can do. We actually began here. This was our guiding statement. We've had our updates. So, at your tables right now, why are you here today? Why did you decide to attend today's coffee? Tapping into your why is going to help guide us in what we do next. Okay? So I'm just going to turn it over to you. Quick 5 minutes, check in with each other, and then I want some feedback so that Chris and I can not make too many mistakes today. Okay, while we've still got about a minute to go, I'm just interested. What I've heard from the table I sat at was that people I've spoken to are interested in how are we using AI, how are we not using AI, where does it fit into our program? But we recognise too that it has a role to play, but the way in which we introduce it and when and to what extent is really the critical issue. Just a quick show of hands if you had a conversation that sort of crossed into that territory. Anybody talk about AI? Yeah, bit on AI? Okay, interesting. What other topics came up at your table? Uh-oh, it's Nikki.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks, Ben. So we had we went around the room, we went to the table, and AI definitely came up, understanding the pros and cons and understanding how we fall, and also then understanding what is age appropriate.
Yeah.
Other than saying no. And then also my own child who is able to hack any password, any setting.
Oh, you got one of those as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
Help. And I think that's pretty much the summary of our table, just wanting to understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you. Good. Well, we're going to talk about a few of those little things as well. There's going to be a couple of things that you've maybe, we've talked about over the journey. That's exciting. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's move on then. Okay, so the AI journey we're on. So this is how I got here today. 5:20 a.m. I woke up just before this, but I'm lying in the dark, and suddenly the lights come on, and my smart light bulb system that my wife doesn't like because she just wants the switch, and I kind of like running it on an app and on timers, and it's adaptive to when the sun comes up in the morning. This goes off a bit before the sun comes up. But meanwhile, she wakes up with her Apple Watch buzzing, which is adaptive, and it's reading her sleep pattern and what stage of sleep she is in to wake her up accordingly. It's 5:50 a.m. and I'm coming down the stairs and I'm saying, "Hey Siri, morning routine." This launches a whole series of actions, including lights in the house, my favourite radio program on the ABC, and it's time for coffee. I'm thinking about this smart toaster. I'm dreaming about it because this could, if I were to have one of these, it would have a camera, it would know me, it'd be, "Hey Ben," it would know exactly how I like my toast. Unfortunately for me, this is more like the reality. It's burnt toast and Vegemite. At 6:40, I'm getting notifications. There's 2 ways to get to school, Ben. Which is it? It's reading, it's out there, it's checking the weather conditions, it's checking the traffic conditions, it's giving me alternatives, telling me you really got to get going. So I am. Meanwhile, the kids are arguing about what to play on Spotify, but my car's paying attention, luckily, and warning me of these things going on around me. Suddenly, I arrive at SAS. It's 8 o'clock. My schedule action in Gemini has already looked at my emails that I have yet to respond to in the previous 24 hours, categorized them, and created a to-do list for me. And it's just told me this. Now I'm down to 1 in my inbox, I wish. It's now suddenly 9 o'clock. A lot of things have happened, and Netflix has given me personal recommendations based on what I like. And I really dislike it when my kids get in on my account, because suddenly I'm getting their recommendations. Chris.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Ippolito. I'm the Emerging Technology Coordinator. I also teach Artificial Intelligence 1 at the high school level. It's my first year. In fact, it's my 2-month anniversary, so I'm happy to be here. My family and I were thrilled to be part of the SAS family. I'm going to offer a slightly different perspective than what Ben just did. Maybe you're familiar with this, having young kids. Do you know this movie, The Incredibles? So I have a 17-year-old now. He's in 11th grade here. He's about 6'3". I don't know where that came from. But when he was young, when he was in elementary school, we watched this movie over and over and over, as kids do, right? Anyway, that's Syndrome. He is the nemesis of Mr. Incredible, and his whole objective is to make technology that empowers everyone to be superheroes. And he says, when everyone is super, no one will be. And it's so weird that that was 10 years ago. And teaching artificial intelligence now, that keeps banging around my head. That we're in that space now, in that we have all these very powerful tools, these AI platforms that help us write and create images and video and do all these things that supercharge our workflow. And he asks me all the time, what do I do with my life? What should I do? And I keep coming back to the fact that at the end of the day, when everybody can create AI slop, as they call it, it's going to come back to you and your voice and your human fingerprint on all of this stuff. So we're really cognizant as an institution about striking that balance. And when do we really thoughtfully engage? At least I can tell you from a high school teaching perspective, I teach an artificial intelligence class, and I'm very thoughtful and mindful about when are we actually engaging with LLMs and other multimodal platforms. So it's very conversational, it's very philosophical. It's talking about career paths and what's going to be left in the wake of all of this rapid development. Yeah, so as you may know, being a very tech-savvy crowd, AI is everywhere. As Ben said, it's infused in his daily life. It's in our lives maybe more than you recognize, in our children's lives. And it's poised to be even more so with the advent of what's called agentic AI. So now we've largely been engaging for the past 3 years with large language models via ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all these other things. But what's happening now, the next wave promises to be multifunctional AI that can do tasks on your behalf and serve as your proxy, place orders, make reservations, be your guy, gal Friday. So that's coming now and causing us to question what are the viable career paths moving forward. I think about that all the time. Thank you. Oh, what happened to my slide there? That's weird. Anyway, it's poised to alter pretty much every field. I don't know why it's all overlapped. But you name it, healthcare, education, all of it's going to be infused with AI. And the thing that we wrestle with here that comes up a lot, you can change that forward. Sorry, that's kind of a mess. I don't know what happened. We combined 3 different slides. The thing that we wrestle with here is, I've heard this come up in professional development. I've heard this come up in conversations with parents. We shouldn't be doing this just because the kids are doing it. And I agree with that. But it's not just the kids who are doing it. It's all the corporations are doing it. And they're putting out mandates, either learn AI, be comfortable with these systems to an extent, or we're going to find somebody else who will. So it's really important, and I say this to my son and my students, that we keep this human-centered, which sounds really weird to say, that we have to keep things human-centered. But again, that is going to make you stand out in the world, that you're going to be the signal in the noise. If you keep things human-centered and we cherish critical thinking and productive struggle, and we use technology and AI to augment instruction and supplement instruction, not be the centerpiece of it all. That we play upon human skills, and it augments creativity and productivity. And we'll circle back to some of this in a moment. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so the family approach. We want to talk to you a little bit about this. We've got some, today what we're going to do is we're going to focus a little bit on like what the family, what some strategies are that you might use at home, and pair them together with how we're approaching the use of technology at school. This will help us to identify where our common issues and pain points perhaps are, and also how we might work together moving forward. Thanks, Chris. So what conversations are you having about technology at home? Just a very quick turn and talk. How are you dealing with this? Today is one of the ways in which is one of the things you're doing. So well done for being here. What else are you doing? Okay, thank you, folks. I hope that that was a valuable conversation. What we're going to pivot to now is looking at family audit. So it all begins, and for those of you who have attended these types of parent sessions before, parent coffees, certainly with me before, you'd be familiar with this format. And that is the family audit and the family meeting. So Chris is going to bring around these now. But essentially what it is maybe I could show the slide for that, it's a digital family meeting. I'm going to come back to those other bits of content in a moment. Oh, wow, Chris, it's not just you. Yeah, I know what's going on. That's weird. Okay, so there are five basic elements to this protocol. This is a protocol you can run at home. It's not something you need to spend huge amounts of time on, but it's something that you come back to. We talk to our kids all the time about technology. Are we the greatest digital parents? No. I have an 11, 10, and 7-year-old, so please empathize a little with me. I don't have all the answers. But what my wife and I do believe is that beginning this with conversation that then leads to agreements, which then lead to rules that we're accountable for, is the right direction at least, even if we don't get it right all the time. The conversation I had at the table I sat at was various things were mentioned, like screen time, passwords, the type of content, the type of devices, the when and the where. And these are all really important conversations to be having. So it works like this. On the back of your template that Chris has just brought around, there are some guiding questions here. These are conversation starters that you can have with your family, your kids. But like, for example, will your family impose tech timeout limits? Is this really about time? Well, actually, in my house, it is actually. One of the elements is time. We don't want our kids on devices too much. So we have downtime. Who uses downtime? If you have Apple devices, who uses downtime on their devices with their kids? Quick pivot. We're running a tech clinic. On October 1st, so this is something that I've done with a bunch of parents already, a number of you I can recognise. You're welcome to contact me anytime, and I very happily walk you through how to set up these types of things on your devices. But a tech clinic on the October 1st, we will go through this hands-on stuff. You will bring devices. You're welcome to bring your devices. If you can find your Switch, bring the Switch. Bring your devices, and we'll help you to navigate those things. I know on my Nintendo Online account, there are some really cool things in there for parent controls. So enough of the ad break. That's October 1st. But these are some questions. Will access time be used as a deterrent? Sometimes, for me. Is it for you? When and where is it appropriate to use phones? A phone for use at home only? These are all topics that you can go through with your kids and basically have some agreements, things that you write, you put on your template, stick it on the fridge. It's something you can come back to. Because certainly what I've found is that no matter what, my kids just want to game that whole system and work around it at every opportunity. You can get a digital copy of this template if you would like by scanning this QR code. That'll give you access to download more versions of this. We've printed a copy for you today, but but some of these things, some of the reasons we have these conversations is not just about managing tech use, it's about figuring out how do we live in an age of technology and in artificial intelligence. Because what we ultimately want to do is we want to identify what some of the potential problems and risks really are. It's not just about time, but it is about things like social media, yes, for sure. Heard that at my table. It's an opportunity to share your thoughts and feelings. The conversation I had on the weekend was all about Labubu. And my question was, how do you know about Labubu? How do you actually know about that? We don't let you get access to that. How did you know that? Oh, it's just entertaining. Entertaining how? I want to know about this stuff. You all know what Labubu is, right? Generate guidelines for behavior. The use of technology, it's not just about sitting in front of a screen, it's like how, where, how visible will you be? Lots of strategies on that. And following up. So this is a way in which you can approach this. Now our approach, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for letting me sit in on some of these conversations that were really insightful. So what do all those things on the screen represent to you? That we're old, is that what you said? I'm old, yeah, I get it. What do they represent?
I'd say they're all one tool now.
They're all one tool. What else? I'm old enough to remember what some of these things meant in my life. Progress? Yeah, okay. So for me, I mean, kind of not the cathode ray tube television, but at least the calculator. That was one of these disruptive technologies back in the day, and we have to keep it at arm's length, and we have this inclination to bar the door because we don't understand what it means for critical thinking. That's what all these things represent in our lives. I remember teaching middle school in New Jersey in what was that? I forget what year it was, 97, 98, and it was in the midst of a search engine frenzy, and one of my students said, "Ip, have you heard of this thing called Google?" And I was like, "No, what's Google?" So this stuff keeps coming, and before my brain got derailed by my slide mishap earlier, I was saying that, some teachers or parents might say, we shouldn't be doing this stuff just because the kids are. And I agree with that to an extent, but as I said, the world is doing this. The world, and it's our responsibility to look at this technology and embrace it to an extent and understand when it should be applied and how it should be applied. Don't we want our students to understand how to engage with artificial intelligence responsibly and ethically and respect intellectual property? So this is kind of our purview. We should be leading the way with this. So that's why Gemini's icon is up here, because that's the space we're in right now. That's the disruptive technology, the very powerful disruptive technology of the day that we have to be shepherding our students through. And at the end of the day, technology is a tool. It's not the centerpiece of instruction. It's here to enable us. It's here to improve and augment our workflow and give us a better understanding of what kind of things we can produce. And as I mentioned, I've only been here 2 months, so I'm on a daily basis impressed with how thoughtfully the staff in this school engages with technology, how mindfully they decide to employ it in their classrooms. It's not, as I said, it's meant to augment a lesson. It is not the centerpiece. And with purpose. I think that kind of goes without saying.
Technology use comes with a learning intention. And that's a really important focus that is something we are focusing very much on. Technology not for the sake of technology.
So here currently is what it looks like across divisions at SAS in terms of technology exposure to students. So you can see starting on the left-hand side, early learning and elementary. We have some usage here in terms of iPads, and you have some robotics platforms. But you'll notice there are no student-facing AI systems. So that's not at the moment developmentally appropriate. So they'll encounter systems that have that integrated on occasion, but it's typically a teacher-facing element that will be the AI component.
Yeah. And that's a conversation I had over at this table earlier. Is like this, I think it addresses some of the questions in the first turn and talk. What is facing students? What are we using? When do we introduce it? We scale it in. We introduce it slowly. It's integrated in the elementary school across a variety of platforms. As I showed you, getting up and getting to school isn't the same as it used to be. It's not an alarm clock blaring and then somehow finding the lights and getting down and making coffee. Even that's changed. This is what we're in the business of doing, cultivating exceptional thinkers prepared for their future. So our use of technology is directed strategically at that. And it comes with responsibilities. These are apps you might be familiar with as elementary parents. Hands up if you're familiar with at least 2 of these. Yeah. And some of them are new. NWEA Map. It's an adaptive, standardized testing platform that we use to form one data point to properly access where is yours and my children at in their learning. One data point, but it's adaptive. And artificial intelligence is helping to drive some of that adaptability. Is this an AI tool in the hands of kids? It's AI in their lives, but it's not necessarily in the hands of our kids. iExcel, likewise, an adaptive platform that has artificial intelligence integrated into it. MyLexia, reading program. Who's used MyLexia before? Seen their kids using it before? Yep, me. Good. It's about to introduce an AI assistant to help, called Maya, to help students guide their reading progress. It's not coming, it's not yet, but it's coming. All of these apps have got some artificial intelligence integrated into the background of them. Reflex Math as well. UFly. These all have artificial intelligence helping to build more robust systems that are able to better differentiate the needs of our kids and identify where they're at in their learning. Are they prompt engineering? No. The landscape looks a little bit like this. This is building onto the previous slide that Chris introduced us to. What specific AI tools are in the hands of kids where kids can say, this is AI? Well, we sort of have Canva. We're using Canva right now. This is Canva. Some of the graphics that were developed in this slideshow were done with the assistance of artificial intelligence. Are we teaching kids this? No. Are kids using Canva? Occasionally. In the middle school, Nikki. The Chrome? Because we don't have Gemini. Gemini is not available to them. But it's not available to them under our plan. It's available to Chris and I. We can use it, but you need to have you can't just be on the basic and also on the iPad. So we don't have it activated for kids. Yeah. Maybe. But in terms of what we have in our suite of apps and programs and our subscriptions, where we have Gemini in our school, but we don't make Gemini available to kids. In fact, not even all of our teachers do. Some teachers do. We're doing a trial at the moment. It's a staged rollout that we anticipate growing amongst our teachers. And we have a small-scale trial going for some students in the high school. Supervised conditions, specific programs, specific group of kids under specific supervision. Not just anybody, right? Nobody pulled a number out of a hat and got, yay, I've got Gemini today. No, we have Magic School. Magic School in the middle school is an introduction to prompt engineering under supervised conditions in a program that's designed for kids of that age, and it's an introduction to artificial intelligence. And then Canva, Adobe Suite, these are all apps that have artificial intelligence integrated into them. So this is my daughter, Enya. This is an example. We're going to get to, we want to show you some examples now of how we use it. These are the apps, yeah, but Ben, how do we use it? Here's an example. My daughter is in grade 1. She has come out of immersion at the end of last year, and she's gone into a non-immersion classroom this year. This has been a difficult time for her because she's had to say not goodbye, but she's not with her friends. She's had the same teacher, coincidentally, for 3 years because she did pre-K twice due to her age. And because she was in immersion, she was in a very small subset of the school, and she had the same teacher for 3 years consecutive. Very strong connection and a beautiful teacher. This year, she's struggling with her transition. And so what her counsellor did was created a resource for her. In sitting down with her and helping her with her transition, she created a book. And it was all about her new beginning. And this is about her. When she smiles, plays, or shares something about herself, she gives others a chance to see what a kind and wonderful person she is because she's become quite withdrawn. And at home, she cares a lot about her brother. Sometimes she worries about him and feels his big feelings too. That shows how caring and loving she is as a sister. This book is all about her, created for her with the assistance of Google Gemini. This is an example of how we are using artificial intelligence in the elementary school. To help a child, and it's been very helpful, we sit down, this has become a bit of a bedtime story actually. And we've got a copy here at school. Anytime she's feeling sad or feeling some big feelings, feeling lonely, isolated, I want my old teacher, I want my old friends. This has become a source of comfort for her. And it's an example, a really good example, as a parent that I really appreciate and is meaningful to me, certainly to her, of how we use artificial intelligence. Is AI in the elementary school? Yes, but it looks like this. This is a very exciting moment because we have the wonderful Miss Jen Brinton, grade 4 home-based teacher, SAS legend, who's going to join us now. We're going to do a quick computer swap, and she's going to show us another example of how we use artificial intelligence. Was that a good intro, Jen? Yeah? We're happy with that? Well, to me...
All right, good morning. I'm not sure if I've had any of your children before, but it's really nice to see you all this morning. Just for frame of reference, I teach 4th grade. I have a son who graduated high school 2 years ago. He's actually studying computer science in the Netherlands. And I have a daughter, Alina, who's in 8th grade. And so I've had it from both sides. I understand your parent concerns somewhat, and then also the teaching concerns. This is my 20-something year of teaching. When I first started teaching, I don't even think I had a desktop computer because the district I worked in was pretty poor. And then over the years, technology has been slowly integrated into, I think, everything that we do as teachers, as people who wake up in the morning and have any kind of, regular life. We're connected now. So I was asked to kind of talk quickly about what I do in the classroom. And so I'll just sort of give you kind of just a quick overview, not super nitty gritty, but just a few ways that I've used AI and also kids have seen AI in action or benefited from AI in action. I think probably first and foremost, they've talked about this a little bit, but to me, it's supposed to be a useful tool. If I am integrating it in the classroom, I want it to spark engagement. Joy is one of my guiding principles as a teacher. I have high standards, but I don't want kids to come to school and be miserable. So I want it to spark fun and joy. And it's a personalization tool. I use it in my own life for personalized advice on what to do financially, what airplane tickets to buy, and I also use it to help analyze student data. on Gemini, for example, because we're really lucky. I'm one of the people who is piloting the pro version of Gemini, and I'm not sure that they said this yet, but it is a closed platform that we use, and the data is kept within our community. And so I can use it to help personalize learning experiences. And one way that I do that is through of course, being aware that, well, what personalization means is that every student learns in different ways and has different needs. On Gemini, I've created a math gem, and what that is, it's a resource. It's almost like an encyclopedia, if you know what those are. I am old. And essentially, it's based on our math curriculum and the standards that we've adopted. And one thing that I've done is, if right now we're studying fractions, I also know I have a student who loves airplanes. They're struggling a little bit with fractions. They've already done the book work. What do I do now? Well, I can ask my math gem to help personalize some questions for that child. I might even use their name in that because, you know, if Andy loves loves airplanes, but he hates fractions, at least I can pull him in through one purpose or another. I can also get challenge and acceleration questions in the same format. Here's an example of what that might look like. So you don't have to read this whole thing, but this is an example of a question that I recently had it make. How does that help me as a teacher? Well, it frees me up to do other things like teach my kids. I'm not sitting here crafting and drafting all of these questions. It's much faster. It's my own little personal secretary. Another thing that I use it for is to introduce topics in a fun way. This week on Thursday, we're actually taking a field trip, and we are going to Dairy Farm Nature Reserve. In my class of 22 wonderful 10 and 9-year-olds, I've got a couple of kids who love snakes, and I have a couple of kids who would rather die than ever encounter a snake. So I had it draft a story that sort of meets in the middle. We're going to go on this field trip. What might we experience at Dairy Farm? And wouldn't it be amazing if we happen to see some of the amazing creatures that live in Singapore? And so that's a recent story that I shared. And it's a little bit tricky to see with the lighting in here, but because it knows that I work at Singapore American School, it even kind of renders our uniforms somewhat accurately. It's kind of amazing. And then probably my last example here is that I use it to help foster creativity in the students. I think a lot of people have concerns on the use of technology with little kids, like will it take away from their fine motor skills development? How will it affect my child if they're on a computer all day? I would have to tell you, this is my 12th year at SAS, and I feel like we have really scaled back how often you see technology used, and if it's being used by children, it's super purposeful. In my class, I have a range of students who, artistically, I could never imagine drawing as well as they do. I don't know where they got it from. Maybe they were born that way. I have no idea. All the way to students who struggle to hold a pen or a pencil and have assistive technology in their daily life so that they can access our lessons. That's just the realities of teaching. So in science this quarter, we've been studying biomimicry and nature and plants, which is why we're going on the field trip, and structures and functions of plants and animals. And everything has a unique structure, and that structure helps it have a certain function for survival. And this is a recent example that we're working on the next couple of weeks to finish out the quarter. So I've given my students a Google survey, and this is not the Google survey, this is actually a screenshot of one of the prompts I gave Gemini. And I've asked the students, after ideating and learning and figuring out, here's different structures of animals or plants and what might they do, but also here's a real life problem, which is how engineers think about their approach with society. I've got a problem, I want to solve it. What might I use to solve this problem? Well, this child had a really dirty underfloor of their bed, and so they wanted to figure out a way to clean it, and they're like, well, I know a spider has long arms, and I know a bunny has really soft fur, maybe that'll attract the dust bunnies, literally. And so that was a bit of the Google survey that they answered with me, not them just sitting there with AI. We copied their answer, and then it rendered the, what did they name it? The furry spinner cleaner. And then another example, this is one from last year, where a student had, actually this particular child was sick quite a bit, and they really didn't want to take their medicine very often. And I actually love this. What a child-centered issue. Who likes to take medicine, especially if it tastes bad? And so they thought, well, I want to have a kangaroo pouch, and I want this cute little furry animal that will be my medicine distributor. And so that is their rendering. What would we do with this now? We would go to the STEAM lab, which we're booked for in about 2 weeks, and they have a chance to actually create a robotic version of this that actually has sensors for motion and movement and sight and light. And so, again, it's fostering their creativity. And so I guess my big message is probably in line with their big message, is that AI is a tool for learning. It's a brainstorming partner to push learning further. And it's used with a clear purpose and goal in mind. I don't just say, have at it, jump on Gemini. It's very purposeful and planned out. And always used with teacher guidance. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for being here again, everybody. We have about 5 more minutes. Hopefully you learned some things, had some good, productive conversations. I want to wrap it up by saying this. We still have to know stuff. I know that sounds really rudimentary, but I say this because we're also in the midst of a high school technology course review. That's part of my job. We're looking at everything we offer, and we're trying to determine what are the most relevant courses that we should continue offering, what will inform our students as they move forward in the next few years. I was having a conversation with this table about, should my son, who is, I don't remember how old, but young, 2nd grade, should they get into computer science? Should they learn how to code? These kind of conversations happen all the time here. Because as you probably know, these platforms like Claude and ChatGPT, they can code pretty well. And we're in the midst of what we call vibe coding, where you and I can write a natural language prompt and we can get an app or a website that's barely functional. It still needs work, and it's the worst it will be. So who knows what that's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years. So it's hard to predict. But in the scope of examining what classes we need to offer, we've had a lot of discussions with people in the tech industry here in Singapore and elsewhere in the world. And as powerful as AI is and other technologies, it still comes down to you have to know things. You have to have domain expertise in whatever area it is that you want to pursue, science, law. So having that foundation will allow you, your children, to interact really well and successfully with these systems in the future. But you simply can't outsource the critical thinking to these systems and expect to get something good in return. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So I was at a workshop down at General Assembly downtown the other night, and there was a gentleman on the panel, I think he worked at Micron over here in Woodlands, and he was asked, what will the skills of the future be? And I really liked the way he summarized it. He wasn't able to say, prompt engineering, or robotics. He wasn't able to say that, because who knows? But he did say this. He thinks it's going to come down to, and I agree to an extent, it's going to be IQ, intellectual quotient. Do you know what you're talking about when it comes to your particular field? Emotional quotient. Can you work with other people? Do you have, and I hate this term, soft skills. It's really, inappropriately named. It's going to become the more important skills in our life, the more human-centric, eye-to-eye, organic conversation, important skills at the center of thing. Can you work on a team? And, sorry, go back one more. Adaptability quotient. Because as you know, we're in exponential times, as they say. Things are turning over by the moment. So can you adapt? Your career field might look completely different in 2 years as a computer scientist, as a developer, as a roboticist. Can you adapt? Can you now understand that part of your workflow doesn't reside in your particular hands anymore? It resides in an AI platform's hands. So I also, and I'll wrap it up with this last slide, because we're out of time. Have you seen the movie The Matrix? It's aged really well, actually, since 1999. And there's this great scene, that's Trinity, she's one of the protagonists, and you're in the Matrix, which is virtual reality of sorts, and they're in this kind of hairy situation, and she needs to fly a helicopter to get away from the bad guys. And she essentially asks the operator, who is in the real world, to please upload the plans for this helicopter so I can fly away, and instantaneously she can fly the helicopter. We're kind of in that space now, not quite in the Matrix, but learning how to learn will be the next generation's most needed skills. That's Demis Hassabis from DeepMind, which is Google essentially. So we and our children are in this space where we need to summon relevant information very quickly, synthesize it, and then act upon it with some expertise. And that's kind of what's happening on the next slide, even though can you go one more slide and we're done? So what's happening, I relate that to what I'm building here, and maybe you use Notebook LM. Our older students are using Notebook LM, which is a great resource for collecting and curating resources and using this as a thought partner to synthesize ideas and solve problems. So, again, circling back to the recurring theme, AI and these technologies are collaborators, they're sounding boards, they're amplifiers of ideas, they're not the center of critical thinking in our students' lives. So, and they will remain that way. Anything else, Ben?
No, we want to give you an opportunity. You've just heard a bunch of things about the place and role of artificial intelligence. We've talked about technology merging more into AI, which tuning in at the start, I think is read the room reasonably well in advance. What comments, questions, anything at all really, feedback? Hi, Angie.
Thank you for the session today and for approaching this with a partnership mindset. I think you would have gathered from the conversations around the room that there's not an anti-tech mindset amongst parents, right? We are very much approaching this as a nuanced topic. And I think one of the questions I want to put to you is, going back to that slide where you talked about the calculator being a tool and let's say all the other things, I think something fundamentally different about the way technology cycles are accelerating is things are changing more rapidly. As opposed to a calculator, which was a static tool, and you could deploy it, you knew how the kid would use it. The rest of the stuff on that screen, including the internet, and how content is, available online, how AI and various releases change their approaches, the kinks and issues that comes with it. So given that we are in that sort of a changing environment, I'm curious what the school's approach is to gathering data from the classroom on how some of these tools are actually being used, how kids are interacting with it, because given the changing landscape, the way, with the best of intentions, what we roll out today may look very different very quickly. So just curious what sort of processes you're putting in place for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think it's a curriculum decision. I mean, we're in the business of delivering, developing and delivering strong curriculum. And so I think that the place and role of artificial intelligence, as with any other technologies or any other resources, analog or otherwise, that we use, is infused deeply in our planning and in our execution of our learning intention. Artificial intelligence really isn't any different. We're having to apply more thought, and it's certainly challenging. I think the difference that you're right to point out, Indu, is that artificial intelligence is challenging. The difference between that and the calculator in some ways, not always, but some ways, is that it's challenging what we mean by learning and how we're going to learn. And there's a lot of concern about how we demonstrate our learning too. Plagiarism, cheating, all sorts of topics come with this, which is why you're seeing such a careful approach. The examples we've shown today are very typical of how we approach artificial intelligence in our school. We use our resources to the strategic advantage of kids and their learning, and artificial intelligence is no different. And so it's with great intentionality that we use it. And so that applies to all of our decisions about curriculum. And we have regular curriculum reviews. These are processes that are ongoing, they're cyclic, and they're ongoing and they'll never end. Yes? I hope that answers your question. Yeah, more or less.
Well, thank you so much for all the sharing. And just a very practical question at home. As a dad and educator, of course, how do you describe AI to your kid? Let's say we use GPT at the dinner table to ask a question, they answer you immediately. So how do you tell your kid, what is this? How do you instill this concept in their young mind?
We're launching a digital literacy review at our school. So this is, in part of that question is like, this is really to do with digital literacy. For me personally, it's really about what is a large language model? What is it? Well, really what it is that, of course, is that, and the way I explain it, it's a little bit like text prediction. It's a little bit like that, except that it's been trained on the way I use language. It's trained in the way that's designed by OpenAI, which is trained on a different set of data to Google Gemini. Google Gemini is trained primarily off of our Google searches. It's a search engine. It's built off the back of a search engine and how we interact with Google over the last 2 decades. That's Gemini. It's a large language model. It's taking a large amount of language and making predictions about what it is we're asking, what it is we're saying, what it is we're requesting in terms of an output. So I guess the way, and I don't know if that's a very articulate or clean answer, but I'm trying to explain it in terms of it's a large language model, it's a large amount of human language that we collectively have generated, and it's making predictions about what it is that we mean and want.
Is that too complicated for them?
Yeah.
We won't understand that. So.
Yeah. So the example I've given is that I've demonstrated a little bit like how Jen Brinton demonstrated as well. She's allowing kids to generate requests through a Google form, isolated and separate from Gemini. But then she's showing them how those requests can be processed in a large language model as a way of introducing kids to what artificial intelligence is. So demonstration is, of course, the most powerful example of it. But what sits behind it is, of course, this idea around large language models. Nikki?
I'm going to assume that, I'm just following on from that, I'm going to assume that there's a point where you say, but also it can be wrong. So I just want to be really, so I did the whole, over the summer break, took photos of my 6-year-old's drawings and said, hey, this is what ChatGPT can make it look like, which is kind of cute. But at the same time, my kid was like, but that's not what I meant. And I thought that was actually very useful for him to understand how it's not always right. If that makes sense.
100% it is. And that's why I use that word prediction a lot, right? It's not about, you're not finding necessarily factual information. It's not necessarily research of the highest integrity. It isn't. It's a prediction. It's giving you a predicted response that predicts right and predicts wrong. Hallucinates, completely lucid. Right? Yeah.
Sorry, to add very quickly to Nikki's point, another point that came up in conversations at home was how the output is not distinctive. It is not you.
Yeah.
You could very clearly see in the examples you showed. Everyone now, we get that uncanny valley effect from AI images. We do get that sort of race to the middle. So I think that was another point, which is it doesn't sound like me. It doesn't look like.
So my question is more around a broader topic, right? Obviously, there's $1 trillion that's going into the AI space every single year. So everyone's excited about it. Corporations, healthcare, you name it. Things can get done faster. You can get more things done at the same time. But why is it that we're talking about education in a different way, right? It comes down to the users. And our users here, if we're talking about children, be it the child psychologists, the researchers, and everybody that's staying up front is because the way in which they're wired is different. The way in which they're getting wired every single day is different, right? The difference between us waking up to Gemini and populating a whole schedule ahead of us versus children using that is because we were wired in a different way to start with, right? So we could always go back to the manner in which probably going back to a book and planning versus over using Gemini, right? So I think my question really is more fundamental in nature, which is, do we as a school want to be feeding into some of this data for all of the researchers and the psychologists, or do we want to be viewed as consumers of some of the research that's coming out and then deploying some of the things? And I saw that elementary schools being really mindful about the manner in which AI is being deployed, but it also goes beyond to middle school and high school because the wiring is still happening at that age. It does not change up until 22, 23, almost till your prefrontal cortex sort of develops, right? So my question is more fundamental by nature. Is like, how do we want to approach this as a solution throughout their cycle of development, child development?
It's a lot. Look, we're in the business of learning, right? And so honouring the integrity of learning is foremost in our decision making and our approach. Acknowledging the reality of the world that we're also living in, preparing exceptional thinkers, prepared for their future, is also core to our business as well. So it's about striking a balance. We too share the same level of healthy skepticism. Is it exactly right? Are we all calibrated in this room right now? Probably not. So we have to strike not a balance. We have to make the best decisions we possibly can to preserve the integrity of learning in the classroom, and for children to be exceptional thinkers. They need to be thinking. They can't be having artificial intelligence generating their work, taking shortcuts through the curriculum. That is why at the core of this issue that we're discussing is curriculum. It's not about what's available. There's iPads in the corner of the room over there. No, these are curriculum decisions. They're strategic.
If I may weigh in, also to your point, since 2022, roughly November, when ChatGPT burst into the public sphere, this has been all of us building the airplane as we fly, right? So to an extent, we're all trying to understand the implications of these tools. So are our students. And I think one of the best things we can do for our students is to have them look at these platforms objectively and determine, is this the right tool for the job? So in the same way, if you're teaching graphic design or anything else, if you're using Adobe's suite of products, like, is this the right tool for this particular application? And do I hear my own voice in this artifact? So I think that's part of the job, is having our students look at these tools objectively and determine whether or not there is a place for it at all.
All right, I'm going to wrap that up for us today here. Thank you for engaging with us on this topic. I want to thank Ben and Chris and also Jen for presenting to us today and sharing their expertise and knowledge with us. This is ongoing work, we know, here at the school, and it'll be going on not only in the elementary division, middle school and high school. Tom, is there anything you want to say? I know there's information coming out about our upcoming review of technology, so we'll be sharing more about that. And also we'll be sharing out any other further opportunities we have that are going on here that Ben has up here at this point. So again, thank you for coming today and thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.